Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass. You're listening to It's All About Food. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. You know, it's an interesting thing where the universe leads you from time to time, and serendipity and coincidences. Today is one of those events in some ways. I'm here with Natalie Freed. I recently got an email from Demetrius Bagley, who was promoting this new product by Natalie Freed, and I read about it and I thought, oh, I'd like to talk about this on my podcast. And I didn't realize that Natalie and I had met at this amazing dinner event 9 years ago. So that's where this coincidence and serendipity comes in. I'll tell you a little bit about her. She started out her professional career as a television writer at Entertainment Tonight and The Rachael Ray Show. She left television to become a stay-at-home mom and was inspired to study health supportive cooking in New York. Natalie currently lives in Los Angeles with her husband and 2 children, where she writes her blog, My Source Life, which focuses on mindful living through the lens of parenting. Follow her in her newest venture, MSL Bags, a line of Eco-Chic, reusable grocery bags made of recycled and sustainable materials on Kickstarter now. Natalie, so happy to see you and chat with you today.
Hi, I'm so glad to join you. I've been looking forward to talking with you.
Before we get started, let's just talk about when we met. I don't know if you remember all of what happened, but maybe we could talk about that. It was a dinner.
It was Fran Costigan's birthday.
Oh, chocolate cake.
Yes. Yes. In fact, she made us all chocolate cupcakes with our initials on them.
Oh, it was an amazing event, star-studded, I must say. So Linda Long, who's been on this program, was there, and Fran and myself and you, and there were some other people there too.
Victoria Moran was there.
Oh, Victoria Moran. Woo,
yes.
Superstar.
Yes. Sharon Nazarian was there.
Sharon, yes. Yeah. She's always got some new blog thing going on. She's the snazzy vegan. I don't know what, is that what she is right now?
It's either snazzy or jazzy. And I know that she just, that she has a YouTube channel that's going right now.
Right. Yeah. And you were a relatively new vegan amongst all of us seasoned vegans.
Very much. I felt very lucky to be sitting at that table. I had just started, I went to the Natural Gourmet Institute, which is no longer there. They're part of ICE now. But I had finished it's a health supportive cooking school, and I had just finished my chef's training program. And to complete that program, you need to do an internship. And I had interviewed with a number of different vegan chefs and cookbook authors, and somebody at the school told me, Fran Costigan, that I would be a great fit with her. And I met her and we just hit it off. I just like her direct style. And I don't know, I felt comfortable with her. And she invited me. We did a lot of things. I ended up going to a retreat with her at the Mohawk House. And she just invited me into her world during the time that I was interning with her. And so that was one of those special nights that I got to be a part of.
Fran, what can I say about Fran? She is intense and she lives like every moment. There is not a moment to waste with Fran. And sometimes I worry about her because it's just go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. But she seems to manage.
She does. And you know, I think that my background in television and specifically, I've always been in daily television. So there is a pace, there's an intensity, there is a straightforwardness that's needed in that business because there's no time to pussyfoot around, as you would say. And I think that I really connected on that level with her. I was just used to that kind of an energy that was a go, go, go. So it's like, I understood the way that she spoke. I understood her language. Yeah, and it seems like she also really keeps in touch with lots of her interns that she's had before.
Nice. Very nice. And why did you go vegan and when?
So I had been vegan, I had been vegetarian since I was 12. I was one of those
Okay.
Those kids, yeah, that go vegetarian. Nobody in my family did. It was just me. And I was about 36 at the time. I had two kids, and my grandfather was diagnosed and then soon after passed away from esophageal cancer.
Mm.
So during that time, he was staying with my mom, my grandma. He and my grandma moved in with my mom, and she was caring for him, and she was doing all kinds of research. And she and my grandmother both went vegan. So they got there before me. And I still hadn't decided to take that leap, but I had a friend who said, "Hey, you want to do 30 days? You want to go vegan for 30 days?" It was going to be, January 1st. And I was like, sure. It kind of gave me an opportunity that I felt like to test drive veganism without declaring that I was making this change and feeling, committed to it. So I'm just doing this for 30 days. This is with my friend. It's a January 1st type of thing. And at the end of the 30 days, I did not feel any need to go back. And I said, I'm good. This is great. This is not only is it a healthier way to be and a more compassionate way to be, but I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And in fact, I feel like my palate has expanded. And so this is what led me to enroll in the chef's training schools, because I had two kids. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm preparing all the meals. I wanted to make sure that I did it right, because I was very much a junk food vegetarian. Lots of cheese, just garbage food. It was vegetarian, but it was garbage. So I wanted to make sure if I'm going to be cooking at home and I'm going to be cooking a lot of vegan meals, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right and getting all the nutrients that are necessary. So that's what inspired me, number one, to go vegan, and then to go to cooking school to figure out how to really do it right.
So much to unpack here. So I haven't said this in a while, but I've always liked to say, you never know how good you can feel until you do it.
Yeah.
And that's why these pledges, and there's so many different ones. I remember when I was with Earth Save a long time ago, the nonprofit that was founded by John Robbins, we had the veg pledge. And I think that was one of the first, but the idea that in 30 days, 3 weeks is like the minimum, but 30 days, 60 days, Lent, for example, is another one of those things where you try something and it feels safe because you're not totally committing. And it can be fun, and you can kind of joke with your friends, oh yeah, I'm just doing this for ha ha ha. And then all of a sudden, wow, I'm feeling good.
That was really it. I mean, you really nailed it. It was just a fun thing that I was doing, with my friend. So it wasn't a declaration to everybody, and I wasn't going to have to stick with it necessarily at the end.
Yeah, humans are such a funny thing. We are funny, aren't we?
In so many ways.
Okay, so your whole family, are they eating vegan now?
Still vegan.
Nice. Your husband was on board?
Well, okay. Let me walk that back a bit. My mother and my grandmother are still vegan.
Wow.
In my personal household, I'm still the only vegan one. But my family eats lots of vegan meals. So, I mean, I might even go as far as to say that they're plant-based. My daughter is probably the most plant-based. She hasn't eaten any red meat. She's the most plant-based out of all of them. But my husband has not changed, except for the fact that, like I said, because I do the cooking, we eat mostly plant-based meals. But what's really fantastic is that every time I go to my mom's house for any holidays or Thanksgiving or Christmas, they're always fully vegan. And
Nice.
I go to her house, and the refrigerator, it's always all catered to a vegan lifestyle. So my kids are very much, I think my son says that at school they call him, they already say that he's vegan because, he gets
Sure.
his lunches,
He's more plant focused than they are, which already puts him way at the end of the food continuum.
Right. I would not consider him that, but according to the other mainstream kids, yes.
with families and children, it is indeed always challenging, especially with young people. But for you, I get the impression since you were vegetarian at 12 that it was probably ethical related at first and then moved to health.
Yes, very much. I grew up with lots of animals. We had horses and goats and chickens and birds and rabbits. My mom worked for a small animal hospital, a large animal hospital. We were the household that if there was some injured animal, they were calling my mom. And we had baby raccoons, pigs, just everything under the sun. So for me, it was the day, I actually remember the day that I decided no more. My mom was cooking some pork chops and the blood was bubbling up on the top. And I just said, no, I don't like that. No, no. It just, I think maybe the deeper connection of an animal, a life, I have blood, and this is what I was then going to be eating. It really all started connecting and, connecting the dots for me. And so, yeah, it was a compassion based decision at that moment in time. And no one else in my family actually ended up changing anything at all. I just was the vegetarian in the family until I was older. And it really wasn't until in my 30s that the health piece of it came into play. I think also a lot of times when you're younger, you're like, I got all the time in the world. I'm fine. I don't know. Health is really not really the focus. But it was after I had my children and I realized that the way that I was eating before to maybe be thinner and have the body I wanted. Now it was switching to, I need to be healthy and I need to be able to do everything that I can't because now I have these children relying on me. It really became front of mind, the health aspect of my life. And then, when my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, that just continued on. And then my mom and I would be having conversations because she was doing all kinds of research. So it really, having my children started me thinking about my own personal health. And then my grandfather's experience, that's what really brought in vegan and plant-based eating as the answer for me.
It's nice that you have your mom there as part of the team.
That's really, really is.
Very nice.
It only makes sense to me because she was the animal lover. That's why I am an animal lover, is because she was an animal lover.
Right.
So her becoming vegan, I'm surprised she didn't become vegan long ago.
There are many vegetarians who become vegetarian for the animal cruelty reason, and yet it's very hard to connect the dots between vegetarian and vegan and what goes on in the dairy industry, which I learned later is probably the worst of all, because not only is it a life of exploitation and cruelty, repeatedly having a baby and then losing your baby. Usually your baby goes to slaughter, but then you get slaughtered too when you're not making enough milk. So you end up being killed. And then for a vegetarian not wanting to kill, well, there's that involved. And we just don't see that because we're not in our culture really allowed to think that way.
No, the disconnect is really something that is perpetuated. It is the on purpose not connecting that the animal is what and as a vegetarian, a lot of times the way that I reconciled it was, at first, before I knew, as you were saying, they're not being killed. This is just a product from them. Like this egg is just from them. The chicken's still alive. Nobody got killed. And then, as I grew and starting to learn about the horrific conditions that these animals are living in, throughout their lives in order for me to get this egg, the cows, and then also, living with so many animals, watching cows play with a ball in the paddock, that they are fun and silly and have personalities, and this is a sentient being. You know, that is what is that intentional disconnect is kept going, because if more people just, I think a lot of them just don't want to know. Like, please don't tell me, because if I knew, it would hurt my heart. And you know, if it didn't hurt your heart, then I feel like something's wrong with you. How could this not hurt your heart? But yeah, I think a lot of people just put the blinders on and want to live in ignorance on that.
We've been raised in this culture, this romanticism of the circle of life, that it's all a beautiful part of what we are. And part of it is eating animals and using their products. And you just have to like, oh, I'm stepping away from that picture.
Yeah, it is. And it's a story too. The story of the happy farm life too, you know, of farm life. You know, people talk to me about, oh, the farm, where there's no, the farms aren't, maybe there's a small percentage of farms that even exist in this way that people imagine them. But that is not how the animals are processed and get to the store. It is not a happy farm they're living on. Yeah, so it is 1,000% a story that is being told.
Okay, so speaking about story, let's just back up in your history a little bit. So you were a television writer for Entertainment Tonight and the Rachael Ray Show. Were there any stories there that resonated with you, or that you were encouraged to write that didn't resonate with you? I'm just kind of curious, because television does kind of promote a certain culture. And
yes, are you dancing around things?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, you know, I went into Entertainment Tonight was my first job out of college. And I started out in the tape vault, the lowest of the low. And I really, you know, worked my way all the way up. The reason I ended up leaving, I wanted to become a stay-at-home mom, but it was not right for my personal constitution. It is, you know, and especially entertainment television, materialistic. We're very surfacey, all of that stuff. And I'm a little bit of a deeper feeler. And so it just did not mesh with me. My husband is still in television. It works for him. It just did not sit right with me and what I was talking about, and the energy that I was putting into talking about somebody's dress or the makeup they were wearing, or just all those things, which are, you know, sometimes fun. I'm not going to say that I don't enjoy sometimes seeing all that stuff, but it was my entire life, and my whole purpose was to be consumed with thoughts of the superficial. And that is what didn't work for me, and why when I left television to stay home with the kids, I knew that I would not be going back to that type of a scenario.
Sure. We don't know what the future holds.
Right.
But maybe at some point you'll have the opportunity to marry all of that and write for some sort of media program that is a little deeper.
This is it. And, you know, my husband, he left, and he creates his own shows. He has a production company, but he was able to do projects that were more meaningful to him. And I admire that so deeply. He's done, you know, a couple of, he calls them docuseries, the reality television, but they're more story driven, and he's not salacious. And I really appreciate seeing that you can choose how and what you're presenting, and how and what you're spending your time, energy, and your mind and focus on. You know, you can do it a different way. Just because there's this established way doesn't mean that you have to continue it that way. So, you know, I do appreciate the thought that maybe somewhere down the road, all of it will come together, and I'll be able to put out something in a way that I feel good about. So yeah, you never know.
Yes. Well, I wish that for you. The challenge for many people who feel and want to do good is that in a capitalistic society, it's hard to make enough money doing what's really meaningful. And there are some who have succeeded, but that's the challenge. That's the balance.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, well.
I know. It's going to be my eternal challenge. It's, and being a stay-at-home mom, and I'm in a wonderful position where I don't need to have an outside job, but there is a drive within me to add something meaningful to the world. So I am propelled from the inside to make an impact in a good way. I don't want to be doing things just to make money. That's where I don't want to. If I'm going to take time away from my family and my children and the things that are meaningful to me, I don't want to be doing them in pursuit of something that is I don't know, solely in pursuit of money. That's not what I want for my existence, which you're absolutely right. It means that I have not made money in a long time. But, at the end of my days, I want to look back and be happy with the choices that I made and happy with the way that I spent my time.
So let's talk about being specifically a stay-at-home mom. And I don't know if there's a stereotype for a stay-at-home mom, but
Yes.
If I was going to make one, it wouldn't be you. You clearly have this drive and this desire that kind of is more than just raising children, which is a tremendous, tremendous job. And I was kind of crawling around your website, My Source Life, a little bit and reading some of your blogs, and you're definitely expressing some of the challenges and the feelings that you're going through and how you're managing that. So let's just dive into that, because I think it's really interesting. And, a lot of people who want to eat healthier, for example, struggle because they have full-time jobs, they have children, the children have activities, and it's like, how can I fit in doing what's really important in this life?
Right. Talking about being a stay-at-home mom is actually really important to me, because coming from being in a professional world and an exciting one like television, and then stopping all of that and becoming a stay-at-home mom, I was not prepared for the self part of it. I felt completely crushed, like I didn't know who I was anymore. I feel like stay-at-home moms, our voices are kind of diminished. And I don't want to say that like nobody cares about what we have to say, but that's kind of what it feels like. That you're not really qualified for anything. You don't really have a voice that's people want to hear or are interested by. I feel like a lot of people think that you are just not capable, and that's why you're home. And it really has bothered me, because I've always felt like a very capable person, and I made a conscious decision to be home with my kids because I felt like I had a lot to offer them. But what it did is then it didn't give me a place to shine personally. The me part just completely got lost in it all. You don't have a way of measuring how well you're doing. You don't get to rise up and, get a raise or a promotion. Nobody's there seeing you. I'm home all day by my, self or with the kids. And it was a big struggle for me. And this is when I went back to, why I created My Source Life. What My Source Life was about is getting back to the source of me, what brings me joy and happiness. So I had to brush away all the other things, the identity that I was a television producer and part of this exciting world. And that's why my voice was interesting. That was now gone. And so what is at the core of me that makes me valuable? So a lot of that, it seems weird, but I started juicing. I started running, which I no longer run. I hate it with a passion. But
Oh,
at the
okay.
time, at the
Huh.
time, it, for whatever reason, it was a wonderful, almost meditation. I would run throughout the streets of our little Cobble Hill. We lived in Cobble Hill in New York, and run through the streets and look at the sky and just be able to connect with me and myself again. And that was really the beginning of finding the voice of me apart from all of the things that I did. And it's that started all of my new interests, and going to the culinary school and writing recipes, volunteering at the animal shelter, doing the things that actually brought me joy, and sparked me and made me light up. So, and I feel like a lot of stay-at-home moms, same as me, don't anticipate that erasing of your former identity and how to deal with that.
So you have a tremendous community, even though you're talking about feeling invisible or this idea that you as yourself don't matter or have value. There's this big community of women and maybe men as well that are deciding to stay at home and be dads, be parents. I'm personally, I've never wanted to have children. I'm not part of that community, but I do know that it is a big community. So you can definitely find a place in that community. And I don't even know, I'm sure there are more and more organizations. I've talked to numerous moms on this show that have written books or started nonprofits to talk about all of the horrible things that are in industrial food that are affecting their children, things related to autism and autoimmune diseases and all kinds of disasters that are going on today. And they have a tremendous following. I'm wondering, are there organizations that kind of encompass some of these and give awards to stay-at-home parents to acknowledge the great work that they've done?
Not that I know of.
Maybe there's something there. I'm thinking of like the story, The Wizard of Oz. So you have the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, and they are all wonderful characters who don't believe in themselves because they need something, right? The Scarecrow needed a diploma. And the Tin Man, he needed a heart because he didn't think he could love. Just these symbols, right? And so sometimes we need these symbols, an award that says, yes, we recognize you. Now, some of us can do that internally, and I think that's the ideal.
Sure.
But maybe there's an organization out there, or maybe we need to create one.
It's because that's really what it is. It's acknowledgement that you're doing a good job. What you're doing is important, and what you're doing is valued. That is kind of at the core of what I was missing. I just felt so alone, and
But you weren't alone because there are so many of you.
Yeah, I just don't think that. I think at that time I had not really gotten onto Facebook, or I was kind of a late adopter to social media. And then, I lived in New York. My family was in California. And I had a couple of friends, I didn't have a car, so we walked everywhere. And so I did have those mom friends, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of times everybody is putting on this "I'm fine,"
Right.
Everything's great face. And then you go home and you like fall apart. But it's a desire to show people that you're doing a good job. Like, I don't know, you don't want to admit to failure. You don't want to, I know that I had a issue admitting to the fact that I was not completely fulfilled. That just seems so shameful, that I was not fully fulfilled by being home with the kids and doing this, that there was still a piece missing from me. And and you just look around, you're getting, like they say, you get everybody's highlight reels. That's what you get to watch. And I just felt like everybody else had it together except for me. And so I certainly didn't want to share that I didn't have it together. Yeah. And I just, then you realize how many other moms must be feeling that same way. So even sometimes within the community, we're all still hiding the actualities of what's going on behind, and just, putting on the face of, yeah, I've got this all handled. We're having so much fun together. This is great.
No, I would think you would have learned some of that when you were in television, because everybody puts on their best face, right?
Totally.
And then behind the scenes, wow.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Is, yeah, that's true. And maybe that's what finally, helped me see it a little more clearly, is knowing this, what, there's so many places where they're not telling the truth here either.
Right. Yeah. Okay, good. So I think in the 21st century, self-discovery is a big theme. And it's a good thing because we're talking about it. It's acceptable even in the medical community now. Mental health is starting to take a priority. It's being acknowledged with men and for women, but with women in particular. All kinds of issues that women had were either brushed aside or called hysteria and a women's issue and nothing to worry about. That's just the way women are.
They are.
Unfortunately, that's changing. I don't know that we know how to deal with it. There are so many methods coming out, and we're all individuals, so some things will work for people and some won't. And it's just kind of an interesting place to be right now.
It is. And I think especially also with 2020 and COVID, all of that has inspired a lot of people to reevaluate the structure of their lives. And I think a lot of people are looking for more, not only are looking into themselves, being a little more introspective, but are also looking for more purpose in their lives. They kind of found that they were just maybe going. And once you kind of get on a trajectory, sometimes you just keep going because. And this forcing of people to stop really gave people an opportunity to reevaluate what it was they're doing and look at themselves and how they were contributing to their happiness or stress in their lives. What's within your control, what's not, how do you deal with things that are not in your control. And a lot of it, like you said, it's kind of a trial and error in figuring out the things that work for you. But people are starting to take the step onto that path of the trial and error and say, you know what, okay, I want to figure some things out. And that's been really nice because I think we all have some things that we just shove away to try and just keep things moving along. And they're never shoved away. They will come out in all kinds of ways.
It seems easier in the short term, but the impact can be really damaging in the long term.
And, do you want to figure it out now or, 10 years from now, and then you're going to regret all the time that you've spent, fretting and yeah.
I want to talk about your children a little bit, and then we're going to get to a new project you're working on. So you mentioned that some of your son's peers call him a vegan or consider him different. And, as a mom, of course, you want the best for your children. You want to protect them. But at the same time, you've introduced to them something that isn't right with the world. And how do you balance that?
So for my son, he actually, I think he takes a little bit of pride in it, to be honest. He doesn't find it embarrassing. Because he's mentioned it a few times. And he's like, I just like healthy stuff. I don't know. I just like the healthy stuff. And he really does. He's my green juice drinker. He has, and I have to imagine it's from the palette that I have helped to create.
Absolutely.
But having kids, this is a difficult one, because having kids and then deciding whether or not they are going to be on the vegan journey with me. There's two sides of that. You're a parent, you get to choose what's in the house, you get to choose how it goes. My husband is not vegan, so there's that side of it too. What I feel like is, especially myself, my mother, and my grandmother having that large impact in the family, we are living examples of why it's important, and why all of these things with the factory farming and the way that animals are treated in the processing, why that is important for me to not participate in, and for my grandma to not participate in, and for my mom to not participate in. And it's so important that we are not going to eat any of that. Sometimes talking to your kids, they don't want to hear you, but they're watching.
Yes.
Watching you.
It is so important what you do. Absolutely. Walking the walk. They
Yes.
learn from what you do. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
Right.
So I feel like that is the deep, if that is the seed that I am planting in them, and that they will see forever and come back to forever, and maybe evolve. I was not vegan. Nobody in my family started being a vegetarian. That was my personal decision, even though around me was meat and mainstream eating. So I just never think that their path is finished. I would like for them to, we don't have any cow milk in the house. We drink, my son's favorite is soy milk. I do almond milk. We also have the oat milk, that's what my husband and my daughter like. So there are some things in the house that are that's just the way they are. And like I said, I'm planting seeds.
Very good. Well, I ask because I have friends and relatives, and they are vegan or veganish, and they make a lot of compromises for their children to fit in, whatever it is. And I get very frustrated with that. And I realize I have nothing to say here. These are not my people. I mean, I have no control over them, and I just have to button up.
I mean, it's hard. I tried. I was for a little while, I was a Girl Scout, my daughter's Girl Scout troop leader.
Yeah.
And even with them, I would try and introduce, I made brownies, but I made black bean brownies.
Sure.
And, with healthy stuff and vegan. And I always would try and bring vegan cupcakes. I just am always trying to put it out there in a I don't want to be, like lecturing, because sometimes that is the thing that will make them turn around and head the other direction. So I don't want to do that. But I want them to hear me, and I want it to be a moment of impact. My friend is the creator of the Vegan Street Fair, which is out in LA. I think she's had it once in New York, but it's every year, and it's fantastic. It's all vegan food and vegan food trucks. And so I like to bring people there. I brought my son, and they're just blown away by all the things that are vegan. And I think people really don't get that vegan food is it's just good. It's just food. It's just food, and it can be delicious. And they're just like, wow, this is really great. Yeah,
I know, right?
It really is. And, if you could have the choice between this one, and this one is cruelty free, maybe you might want to go for this one. And so it's creating those opportunities to make impact on people that I know would not want to just hear the talking. There's the people that are interested and do want to hear the talking. Let's talk. I'll talk to you about it all.
Yeah.
But for those others, I know what I want the result to be. It's how do you get there with them? So, it's not all, you just can't take the same route for everybody and in every situation.
Absolutely true. And I've made a personal commitment that I stick to most of the time, where I do not start talking unless I'm asked.
That's I had.
And still, even if I'm asked, I usually give one of these warnings like, I am happy to give you information. Are you ready for it?
Right. Do you want to have this conversation?
I really want to have this conversation because you're not going to like what I have to say.
But I think that's where it starts, is with a conversation. And sometimes, something you said now, I don't know, connects somewhere later down the road, and somebody makes a
planting
decision.
seeds. Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know all the circumstances that are there at the moment, and you don't know what's going to happen down the road, where what you said then connects with something else and makes an impact on somebody. So I was just trying to come from a place of authenticity and compassion and intention of giving information without making somebody feel judged, because that will create a defensive response, and that shuts the door.
Okay, so people have gotten an idea about Natalie Freed and who you are. Now, let's talk about, drum roll, the floppy.
Yes.
What is it? Why is it?
Okay, so as I was saying, I had been looking for something to put my efforts behind for a long time. I started my blog, it's probably been about 6 years now, and I never monetized it because I just don't want to do things to make money. It was a place for me to be able to connect with people and share the realities of being a stay-at-home mom. But one day, I don't know why, it occurred to me, as I was grocery shopping, as one does when they're a stay-at-home mom, I just oftentimes would feel, number one, kind of frumpy. And number two, I liked my floppy reusable bags, but because they were so versatile, they allowed you to live kind of a more minimal lifestyle. You can have this one bag and use it for so many things, but it didn't work for me at the grocery store. So this is like one of those real life, like the pieces of your life coming together. I come from entertainment television, which is about beautiful and fabulous and sparkly and wonderful. And then I go to being a stay-at-home mom, where I'm doing chores and work and caring for people and, all of this stuff. And being a stay-at-home mom, oftentimes you do end up feeling less than put together, just not pretty, not special. You're just checking off the list. So I thought, okay, this is really kind of something that I care about. I would like to make a bag that works better, a reusable floppy bag that works better at the grocery store, and that's cute. This whole concept of elevating eco-friendly, that's what I'm about. There are the people who are already interested in wanting to live more sustainable lives, and they're going to search out, the pieces of whatever it is that's going to help them lead a more sustainable life. There's another element of people that maybe would choose something sustainable or something else, but it just doesn't, it's a little too granola for them. And I'm like, there's a whole niche of people who are not participating in this because maybe it just kind of looks like, eh. So I'm like, okay, let's blend some function and some style and see if we can. I mean, this is a real product that I made for myself to make grocery shopping easier, like have it actually work better, and for me to feel not so frumpy. But it also really sparked this greater conversation of elevating eco-friendly. Can we, add some style, have it be, in order for it to become mainstream, it needs to be be what's the word I'm looking for? Competitive, not only in the style, pricing, it needs to be in and availability. And in order to get into mainstream stores, it needs to appeal to the mainstream customer. And how do we reach that mainstream customer who is not yet an adopter of more sustainably minded habits? And so I just started figuring out how do you make a product. I started sourcing materials because I thought, why are we using most of those bags are not recycled materials. Why are we making something that's supposed to help us minimize our impact? Why are we making out of new materials? Why don't we make it out of recycled materials? Like let's double help here. Not only are you displacing all the need for your plastic bags, but now you're also absorbing some of the waste that we have, and taking post-consumer waste and making it into something new. So that it really just lit me up because it was real, it was genuine, and it was something that I felt like I could really get behind and say, hey, I know grocery shopping. I know grocery shopping. I'm doing this for 15 years. So let me just show you something that might bring you in. And that's where it started.
Great. Well, I remember reading somewhere about the reusable bags that we can buy in a supermarket and how they're not really as environmentally sustainable as we'd like to think, even though we're replacing paper bags and plastic bags.
Yes.
They still use a lot of new material, a lot of energy, and they don't last, and they are not what we thought they were supposed to be. And then during the pandemic, well, I used to belong to this company, not belong to, but I used to get my groceries from a company in New York called Go Organic NYC. And when they started, you had to buy a bag based on the size of food you were anticipating getting once a week. And it was $10. And it was kind of a nice bag. It was insulated. And my groceries would come in it. And then I would give it back. I forget how it worked, but I would exchange. Yeah. So I'd get a bag and I'd give my bag back. Right. And it was working until the pandemic came. And then everything went in boxes. And then unfortunately, the company is not doing it anymore. Very sad. And I hope they come back because I really love them.
Yeah.
But then I would buy from Fresh Direct, and they provided a bag every week. And we now have mountains and mountains of these Fresh Direct bags. Now, I have to admit, as a shopping bag that you can get from a grocery, I prefer this bag because it's roomier than the vertical rectangular bags you normally get. And I have used my Fresh Direct bags for a lot of other things because of its size, but it's a Fresh Direct bag. I mean, what's my statement? It's not fashionable or anything. And I'm happy to say that I have found there are some places that do accept these bags to use them for charitable different things. So you can unload them, but what's going to happen to them? Anyway, we have a problem here.
It is a problem. And like you were saying, the ones that you buy at grocery stores, the ones that worked the best for me were like those crunchy ones that were, a little more stable. But you look at them and they're like new PVC, which is all the things you said, the resources that it takes and the pollution that is created. And they're not washable. I did a little experiment. I don't even know if you thought about this, but I took, those little agar plates, and I took a Q-tip and I did the inside and the outside of the bag. I did two separate ones, and the stuff that grew off of them was just terrible. It was just terrible. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was like a whole nother thing. I was like, okay, so those ones aren't washable. There were just problems with both of the bags. And like you said, the walking around with the branded, it just, everything else, as a mom, I was struggling to just like do my hair and makeup and just feel a little nice. And then I'm walking around with this, and I think I caught myself in the reflection of the glass door as I was going in. And I was just like, oh gosh, you just look a mess. Like why does it have to, why do you have to be like this? Because if you want to be supporting a sustainable habit, does it need to be like this? So yeah, like getting into this whole industry I've learned a lot. And it's hard to recycle these things. They make it very difficult. You can't just throw it in your bin, in your home bin. You have to like go and take it somewhere. This is something that I talk about is a circular economy, where you are a product stays in circulation as long as possible. And then when it comes to the end of life, you recapture that material and use it again as long as possible. And that's what I am really rooting for as the greater change in what we do, because people are not going to do that much. I care. And I still don't get all my, bags. They're still in a big bin in my garage because, I have to go and find the place and deposit them. It's got to be more industry wide where our industries are making it easier for people, because the average person is just not going to put forth that effort. And you have to just deal in reality. It would be really great if everybody was going to wash the labels off of this, off your cans before you drop all those little things. So many of the little triangles that say, it's recyclable. It's technically recyclable if your recycling center happens to have that particular recycling.
Right. And who knows these things?
Many of them don't. I've gone and actually toured recycling centers, to find out about this stuff. And many of them don't. So the infrastructure of our recycling industry is what really needs to change in a greater way. And then more people adopting sustainable habits is also a thing that needs to happen. All of these little changes need to happen. But so for me, the piece is reaching that, an eco-fabulous. This is the word I use, eco-fabulous.
Eco-fabulous.
Yeah, somebody who wants to be a part, like, can we just make life a little more sustainable and responsible practices? And let's, it can be just as stylish, just like vegan food. It's just as good.
Just as delicious or more delicious.
Right. It's just about putting forth that effort and changing some things. Yeah. Slow going.
So you're an important piece to a very big project for this planet.
Yes.
I'd like to think we're moving this direction. We'll see if we last that long to get there, but our culture needs to change. I remember I went to college and I studied chemical engineering. And one of the things that we learned was to do a return on investment for any type of project that we were thinking about building or creating. And what was never included was cleanup. And, we learn as a kid, we play with our toys, and then at the end of the day, we clean up. And that should be included with adults, with the projects and the products we create. We figure out what it costs to make it, and we have to include what it costs to clean it up. And we don't.
Yes. The end of life. Yeah.
We have to do that.
Yeah. This is really, being more responsible with our.
But we've lived in this throwaway society. The world is our toilet, just throw it wherever you are. But there's so many of us. The garbage is a little untenable.
It does not get thrown away. Nothing is thrown away. It's it's just over there. Piled up over the corner.
And that's a whole nother issue. Where are we throwing it? We're usually throwing it in communities where they don't have a voice, communities where people are poor and don't have access to things, and then their environment is polluted and oofda, as they say here in the Midwest where I am right now. Oofda. Okay, so the floppy is out there. How can people find out about it and support it? Check it out.
Yes, it's on Kickstarter right now. If you just go onto Kickstarter and search the floppy or even reusable grocery bags, it will pop up. I think it's the only reusable grocery bag campaign on there. So yeah, it should be easy to find. You can also go to mslbags.com, and that'll give you links to the Kickstarter, to all my social media and my blogs, which I talk a lot about sustainable habits and materials and why it is that this change is important. And, really just getting the word out. So if you know somebody who is interested, you think would be interested in this, or it sounds like, oh, that just sounds like just like this person that I know, share it. That is the only way for more sustainable brands to start growing, is for more of us to share it with each other and start supporting them. So yeah.
But when I watch the trailer, the promo for the product, it's not just a grocery bag. Because it's attractive, you can take it anywhere.
This is exactly it. And that is the reason why I like the floppy style of bags, is because, it's also about not having so many things. I think living in New York actually was the impetus for me to learn that lesson.
Right.
That about living with less, and how you don't need so many things. And so this is also in that vein. Use it for here. And when you don't want to use it here, you can take it to the pool, take it to the beach, use it as your workout bag, to yoga. I take them on trips with us so that, like we're at the hotel, I can either put, clothes in there, or if we each need like a little day bag to go out, that works as a day bag. And they're so small that, they fit nice. You can either, take the bottom out and roll them up, throw them in your purse, or with the bottom in, they're just very low profile. So it just is, it's another way of being sustainable for me. I don't want to say a problem, but there are lots of sustainable influencers, and it's almost, they're amazing, but they do so much that you feel like, I can't do all of that. I'm never going to be able to do all of that. Mm-hmm. And I am more of a realistic person where you do what you can, start something, and then you just keep adding more and more things on, and small things like, switching to your trash bags that are from recycled plastic, or your aluminum, or not using plastic Ziploc baggies, all of those things, eating a vegan diet, all of those little things, are contributing. And so recognizing that your contribution is a part of it too, and may inspire somebody else as well. So, those minimal living is another way for me to live more sustainably.
Just do something.
Do something.
Well, I'm thinking I could get a floppy and fill it up with all my fresh direct bags.
Right.
And then take it and dump them somewhere.
I even have, what they're great for too is for kid toys. My friend has like a couple little hooks up in her kids' room, and then just puts like the little toys, like this one has stuffies in it, this one has blocks in it, and you can just hang them up and they look cute. Pick the colors that go with your kids' room, and it's just something nice. So it's endless, honestly.
Natalie, this has been fun, a treat. I'm so glad to see you and chat with you and hear about what you're doing, which is great. So thank you for joining me on It's All About Food. And I hope someday we can have another one of those star-studded dinners somewhere.
I would love that. Thank you so much. This was just an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Okay, take care. Be well.
Bye.
Well, that's our show for today. Remember, you can always send comments and questions to me at info@realmeals.org, and visit me at responsibleeatingandliving.com, the nonprofit that I founded with my partner, Gary DeMattei. Join me next week when I will be talking with Chef AJ and Glenn Mertzer, celebrating the 10th anniversary of Unprocessed. Okay, until then, have a delicious week.